Well, welcome to our first interview with Family Support Ministry as we talk with three educators and their experience of either schooling their kids at home, being in the formal area of education, and trying to give you some tips and tools on how to be able to navigate this unprecedented period of time. So whether your kids are in high school, middle school, elementary age, we want to be able to try to hit that all and try to help you create an environment that's going to set you up for success as well as your kids. So we're privileged to be able to be with you right now. So with me today, we've got Kevin Ogden. He is an educator for 40 years.
40 years.
40 years. We've got Karina Enns.
Hello.
And how long have you been a part of education?
17 years, and then homeschooled my children before that.
Okay. And we've got Megan, who is a homeschool mom.
Yes.
And she's going to be able to be that one that really keeps us grounded of what reality is. Because the area of navigating our kids and educating them is a difficult one. So invite you into our conversation as we try to help you navigate this whole area. So Kevin, I'll just start with you.
Sure.
So you've been in education for 40 years, two grown kids yourself.
Two grown daughters.
At this point in time. But you've got your ear to the ground of what's taking place. So what are you hearing in terms of parents and their frustration levels, their anxiety levels? What are you getting from parents?
Gosh, my wife and I put out something on Facebook just in our community, and we got over 400 responses. And the thread running through everything was, I'm not doing a good job. I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do. And so our goal coming out of that was really just to find those opportunities to give parents hope and to understand your kids are going to be okay. But it's frustration and just really challenged with the environment.
Right. And Karina, what about you? You're currently in the educational element in Coastal Academy still.
Right.
And so what are you getting from parents?
Gosh, really getting the gamut. There's the families that are feeling like this is a gift to have this time, and there are those that are like, I've been thrown into a situation and I have no idea what to do. I have no supports, and I feel like I'm drowning. And not only am I drowning, but my family's drowning, and just not knowing what to do with that.
Right. And Megan, you're also over like a homeschool network, right, of moms. So you're hearing a lot from a lot of these moms and dads, that are in the midst of the trenches of trying to educate their kids. So what are people feeling?
They're on a yo-yo, and they have been this whole summer. Just, are we open? Are we not open? Are we in person? Are we not in person? And these families have had to adjust on the fly. And these teachers, like building the airplane in flight, they're just trying to get this going. And so these parents that are reaching out, they're just stressed out. They're just like, what's the best opportunity? They know I homeschool. They know I have been homeschooled, my whole life. And so it's like, is this legal? Is this safe? Is this efficient? Like, can you do this? Can you help? And so that's kind of where my voice has been speaking to these families, just like, you can do this. It's not stressful. There's just so much hope. But however you're educating your kids. I mean, these parents that are trying to do Zoom, and they're trying to get their kids logged on and work and run their household. I mean, I just want to give everyone a hug. I just want to pray with them. I just want to encourage them, because what they're doing is not easy. I get that all the time. Like, how do you do it? And I'm like, how are you doing it?
It's not easy, and I think there's this element where it seems like we should all know that everybody's struggling, but because of the distance learning, because of the isolation factor, I think most everybody feels like they're failing alone in the midst of this. Everybody else has it figured out, but they're failing. So how do we help parents get past this element where they constantly feel like they're failing? And, they can't figure out the technology, they can't keep up with the work, can't keep up with the house, all these different things. How do we help? How do we help parents through this?
I think what I've been trying to do, and again, I raised two daughters, and so I would come home after a hard day, and literally I would tell parents, that's when my real job began, because I was helping with homework. So I do have a sense of that feeling of chaos in the midst of trying to get everything done. But I've been trying to help parents reframe, and it's not easy. But to think about this as your opportunity to really instill some character values and some spiritual values in your children you'll never have this chance again. So to reframe it and look at it as a blessing, even in the midst of the chaos. I know that's not easy to do. It's like an ongoing, maybe every minute, to reframe. This is a gift. I have this opportunity to be with my kids like I never will again.
So, I mean, Kevin, honestly, so today before this filming, I'm working at home because my wife had to go to work, so I'm helping with my girls with distance learning and trying to manage that. I got the dog barking at the guy, the exterminator, coming to the house because there were some critters in the attic, and then trying to get lunch together and all these things. It didn't feel like a gift.
No, I'm sure many times it won't. And so really, again, having that support system, as a man, I would have somebody in my life group that I'm just talking to, like, oh my gosh, today was chaos. And help each other to lower the bar and really emphasize it's time for relationships, it's time for character building. And I know I would have some other guys I'm talking to, hey, get me back on track, walk me off the cliff. So you're right, Trent, it's not easy.
So have you talked with anybody, recently, that you've been able to help them reframe this?
I was talking to a young dad, and really, sometimes it's dads who are doing the predominant distance learning, and he was just super frustrated, like, I'm not doing a good job, my kids are not going to be okay. And so just out of that conversation, I wanted him to realize that this is an opportunity as a dad to have time with his kids that he'll never have again. And to really look at it as an opportunity to really, again, instill some of those values he wants them to understand as a dad and character, and really have that opportunity to put into place, hey, perseverance and grit. Model. This is not easy, kids. This is super tough. We're in it together, and just be honest. And I think at the end of that conversation and some prayer together, I think you felt much better about, okay, I'm going to be okay. I can do this.
So, Megan, I see you nodding your head there in terms of a huge element of being able to instill character and you really reframing this period of time. How would you suggest for parents to be able to do this during this period?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was homeschooled, and so one of the things I draw back on now, homeschooling, it was a huge sacrifice for my parents, but my dad, he took a shift at work that put him to work at 3:30 in the afternoon, which no one wanted because they're going to work when their kids would be coming home from school. So he was with us all day. And what I remember is him taking us down to Torrey Pines, and we'd go hiking. We'd look for lemonade berries and licorice plants and go watch the whales migrating. And that stuck with me. I can't tell you the science lesson I worked on that day. I can't tell you what math concept I tried to do that day, but my dad just pouring into us and being very intentional to use that time to create memories. My mom was always serving. We always did things for church or for ministry. And as an adult, that's what stuck. And then that's kind of where I've shifted my weight as far as what's very important to me in educating my kids is creating that environment to serve, and to be in ministry or to pour into them through experiences, through hiking or biking or walking. And it really does take that pressure off of pushing you through the academics, pushing you through the school books, and really just being intentional to just pour into.
And that's what you remember.
Yes, that's what I remember. And so I have that to draw on, with my kids now. It's like I don't have that stress to make sure I finish a schedule that I've laid out. If it
and
doesn't
Megan,
finish,
that relationship with your dad,
Yes.
I mean, it's still, I see it in your face, I hear it in your voice. That's, again, to reframe the relationship you can create with your kids right now. You have this golden opportunity. That was so great to hear.
I'm hearing you guys. And it sounds great.
But it's
just
hard.
like it'd be great to live at Disneyland. But there's this side where how do I mentally get to the place? How do I prepare myself mentally even the day before or that morning? How do I get myself into this place where I'm reframing and resetting and putting some of those character matters, those values ahead of the pressure of the education? I mean, what would you suggest?
Gosh, I just think, first of all, it's important to call a spade a spade. This is hard. This is not life as we expected it to be. We expected for our children to be going back in school, for things to be opened up more. We didn't expect this pandemic, and we weren't trained for this. So it just is hard. And with that acknowledgement, I think there's an acceptance of, okay, so now what? Now I've acknowledged that it's hard, so now what? And And I think we feel like we have to be good at everything, but we don't. Like, we just have to be good at some things. And we're not usually that far off of where we currently are. We just feel like we are because we see all the chaos around us. And we think there's so many things that I need to improve on. But I think it's just finding those few things that are going to make the biggest difference and have the biggest impact, and just focus on those.
Right.
Just notice, pay attention, put effort into those, and then other things will either follow or not, but I've already established what's important and what's not important. And that takes people around us to help guide us in that too.
So if I'm focusing on just a few things, yet their homework shows many things, how do I pick and choose what I'm going to focus on?
Yeah, good point. I think that comes with forethought. So is it that, because what's right in front of them is that you have to prepare a meal for your children. You need to make sure that they're on their Zoom calls at the right time and they've done their homework. And so part of that reframe is, how important are these really? And the fact that they got all of their homework done, is that really the most important thing? You're the parent. And you can make some decisions here. You can decide what I'm going to focus on. They might not get it all done. They might not have it turned in on time. That's okay. And that's where you're establishing what really is important and what am I allowing to be important that in the long run isn't.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I think part of it too is when you're frustrated, recognize that and realize maybe this is the time I need to get out and take a walk, or I need to go for a run, or I just need to get out of the house right now. And I think give yourself permission to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be your best for your kids.
Yeah.
So we're talking about setting up homes for an atmosphere for success.
Yeah.
And many times that has to do with, first off, setting up yourself for success.
Yeah.
So you're mentioning you taking a break, taking a pause. What would be some tips that you would give parents in preparation for the day, in terms of for their own health? What would be some things that you'd suggest that they do?
Right.
Megan, what about you?
Well, I think it's important. Like for me, we have a support group of families that are homeschooling together. And so I have kind of resources from other families, because it is very isolating when you're doing it alone. And so when you kind of can bounce your ideas off and with another family who also feels like they're failing and not doing it right, and you can kind of just see, okay, we're doing okay, we're doing well, and then that pressure is off a little bit because you have that support. You have people speaking into your situation or to your life, and you're just kind of put at ease a little bit. But yes, I do. I have mom friends, or my husband and I are really intentional, I think, about us just going out, or
great.
my girlfriends and I will just go out and pray. We'll bring our school calendar, so we're setting our week up for success, but we pray. We pray for our week, we pray with each other, we pray. And I think that has been and can be translated across any form of schooling. If you're doing it distance learning, if you're doing homeschooling, if you're doing virtual learning through the school.
So are you saying you actually take moments away from your kids?
I do. I leave.
Are you a good mother?
And we joke, my husband will be like, I'll see you tomorrow, because I'm not coming home until like after midnight, because there's just, I need to be filled up before I can be pouring into my kids. And so I think you can't kind of give away what you don't have yourself. And so I just try to make sure and be intentional to create that.
So how do we
So
set that
good.
up? How do we
So good.
establish breaks when it seems like we don't have any? I mean, help some
I think it
families out
really
with this.
starts, you said, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? I think it starts before that. I think it starts with really recognizing ahead of time, what are some of the things that are going to come up in my week, or that I can put in my week to give myself a break, or what are my kids' schedules like? Like, what does that look like?
Right.
And where can I put the things that I need? And write them down, make a list of what it is, because in the heat of the moment, you're going to forget, or you're going to say it's not that important, but there's this that needs to be done instead. And so I think it's planning ahead. I think we tend to start planning when we need to, when we should plan before that.
Yeah. I think lines are so blurred right now with work from home and school distance learning. And so really encouraging a practice of put the big rocks in first.
Yeah.
And so put on the calendar, and everyone knows it. We are having our family dinner Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'd love it 5 days a week, by the way, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 o'clock, we're all going to stop everything, put away the technology, and we're going to have family dinner together. Put on the calendar, we're going to go on a family walk on Thursday at 7 o'clock in the evening, because everything is so blurred right now. I think if you're not intentional about setting up those things in your schedule, you can work on schoolwork or work from home till 8, 9, 10, and everything just becomes even more chaotic.
I think there's that side too, Kevin, of like putting those big rocks on for yourself. Of escape day, whatever that is for you. If it's running, if it's going to get your hair done, or just walking, or just going and sitting in a car and being by yourself, right? But I think there's that element of a relief valve that you know, I've got this day coming, I've got this time coming. But when we don't have any, it just seems like this ongoing cycle of the same pattern and routine. It gets very difficult. So I think we got to take care of ourselves.
For sure.
That's a huge thing that you guys are emphasizing. So then how do we set up our homes for an atmosphere for success? Not necessarily the correct poster on the wall, not necessarily the right food in the fridge, but as far as mentally helping our kids and high school students prepare for these days and challenges. How do we do that best?
I think you look at, like you said, use the word success. And so what does success actually look like? Does it mean that you've completed all your homework, that you've checked all the boxes, or does it mean that you've provided your child the childhood that you want them to have, and that you've instilled the values, that you're living the life of integrity that you say is important? Is that then success? So it starts with a conversation of, what do we actually want this to be, rather than letting the circumstances define what it is.
And don't compare yourself to other parents. I mean, I don't look at Pinterest, but I know there's a lot of moms looking at Pinterest right now, and oh my gosh, I don't have the right classroom for my kids. So let all that go and just really focus again on character, time. Megan, I loved hearing the story about your dad again, and the relationship. Hey, after 40 years, again, I've never seen a student who didn't ultimately succeed academically when they came from a supportive home. But relationship is the key to that. So I love that story about your dad, and just really focus on relationship.
He's doing it again, his grandpa. He's picking up the kids.
That's amazing.
Going on bike rides.
Let's define this a little bit more, though, Kevin, in particular on this whole element of success. We are success-driven society, and you better make something of yourself. And while as a pastor, I fully agree with, hey, character matters, people will say character doesn't pay the bills. You need to make sure you're getting the highest degree possible in some instances. But, in particular, like our high school parents and students that are in this weird flux of like, they're trying to prepare for college, don't know where their academics are falling, what credits schools are going to accept or not. How do we help them define what success looks like?
I think that's such a great question, and would be really easy for me right now, I think, to give a cliche answer, so I'm going to avoid that. I'm not sure I even know, other than I really am heartened by reading that colleges are not going to look at ACTs, they're not going to look at SATs. They're recognizing that grades during this time of COVID are really fluid. And so really, I think listening to our kids and listening to maybe other families about, I'm so stressed out right now, what if they don't get into the right school? Listen, but recognize again, you do what you can do. And there's really a limit to what you can do. One last point, I know more about this curriculum-wise, probably K-8. The cycle of curriculum is such that these kids are going to get critical pieces of curriculum. If they somehow missed it right now in 3rd grade, they're going to get it in 4th and in 5th and in 6th. So because it cycles, they are going to get it. High school, definitely a tough one. Biology, chemistry, I mean, I'm not sure I have a great answer there, but I really do believe there's going to be a lot of opportunity for colleges and universities. Everybody's in the same boat, so they're going to recognize that.
Yeah, I think there's that element built into our educational system where you go through these cycles on through repetition.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
your high school biology classes, you're going through the same material once you get to
Correct.
college.
Right.
I mean, unless you're doing an AP course, which many students are,
Yeah.
you're going to end up going through it, again. But Karina, as far as like this mindset, though, I think there's an element where we can set up our students for failure, or a mindset of failure, like, oh, you're never going to achieve because you've been set back. Or we can set them up for a mentality of success, that each day that they are winning, that they're
Yes.
moving forward.
Yeah.
How do we set them up for this winning mindset?
I think it's changing position of ownership. With your high schooler, they're the one that has to live their life, and they're starting to be adults. And so what you're really training them is how to be an adult in this world, not how to get this job. It's how do I function in this world? And that comes with helping them learn how to problem solve and helping them to own their problems and own their solutions. And so I think that is a real pivotal time. Like we can allow this circumstance to define our time, or we don't have to.
Right.
And we're teaching that to our children.
Right.
And so you're helping them to learn, how do I take difficult situations and still move forward in that process? And so asking them, what is your goal for this week? What are you looking to achieve? How are you going to get there? What might get in your way? So if you say this is your goal, what if you shut it out a couple months further? Would that help you get there? So asking important questions, valuing and respecting their opinion, and that they are the person that's going to have to live this life, and they're ready to start to get there. And so I would really encourage a parent at that age, and mine are all older now, so we've kind of lived through that.
Yeah.
That you're teaching them more problem-solving skills and ownership than you're actually helping them get the class that they need in order to get to the school that they need, in order to get to
Good point.
the degree that they need.
Yeah.
So you're saying the mom and dad that is hovering over their shoulder, checking everything that
Yeah.
they're doing,
Yeah.
is ultimately not setting them up for success.
No.
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 Yeah.
My oldest is 14, so he's going into ninth grade. So I'm listening because you guys are all done and out of the. But I do, like we've transitioned a little bit into a little bit more independent, and he's taking ownership of his schedule, and sitting down with him, and as my husband and I just kind of, I think it goes back to their why. Why are we doing this? And is it because we're forced to, because the state said we had to? And if you reshift the why, for my husband and I, that's what we did. Like, are we making sure that you can read well so that you can get into a good school, so that you can get a good job, so that you can make a lot of money? And then we shifted our focus to, no, you learn to read well because the creator of the universe has revealed himself through written word, and you're going to learn to read because our goal isn't GPA and high status at a school. Our family this is all about sending you off into the world, and character, and who you are in your spiritual life. That's kind of just taking that ownership onto our lap. So that's our why. So now transitioning that into our ninth grader, it's like we're preparing you, like you were saying, to exit our home, but then enter this world that you're going to have to make decisions for yourself and see this for yourself.
I want to ask him one last question, but I just want to encourage all of you at home. There's the element from Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
What's the type of child that you're trying to raise, and what values do they have that you've instilled in them? And ultimately, we're setting the example in our homes during this period of time, whether we complain about every single circumstance and what's taking place, or we make the most of it. And as a dad that has kids at home and distance learning and working, and my wife doing the same, I recognize this isn't easy. Yet at the same time, I know it's worth it. And I know that I'm able to build some character in my girls right now during this period of time. And they're going to be able to see something different in me that they wouldn't have ever seen before. So I encourage you. You can do it.
Yep.
You can do it. And just want to ask the panel, what's one last thing that you would just encourage parents with? Megan, what would you encourage them?
Oh man, I just want to give everyone a hug because my phone is blowing up. They're stressed out. They're overwhelmed. And I just think, find your people or a person and link arms. And I think the church is going to be a huge resource if you don't have that already. Find that one person that you can call or send a text to. You're in the closet crying, eating chocolate because your little sinner kids are running around causing chaos, and just, I need prayer. And I think, to me, like, that's been huge and integral for me. It's just finding that support, finding that connection with somebody to, speak into your life, to pray over you and take a deep breath, get through this day, get through the next day, and all of a sudden you've hit the end of the school year,
Yeah, get connected. That's huge. Karina, what about you?
Gosh, it's get connected. It's know ahead of time where your support is. And, I think of it like if you're having a baby, you're not, as you're having the baby, thinking of where am I going to get my meals? Who's going to come to help? Who's going to, that's crisis. That is, you don't have the capacity to do that. It's ahead of time that all those things are planned and prepared, and you found your support and who's going to help you through it, because you don't necessarily even know what you need help with. You get into those situations where you're like, I know this is not going well and we are drowning and I don't know what to do. And I don't even know who to reach out to. So it's finding those supports ahead of time, right now, and they don't have to be perfect supports. Right. It doesn't have to be the perfect friend, the perfect situation. It just needs to be some support. Yes. And you realize that they give you another rung to step on, and then there's another rung, and then pretty soon you're looking at it from a totally different vantage point. Because of those helps and supports.
Yeah. Kevin?
Give yourself some grace. Your kids are going to be okay. They absolutely are. In fact, they could come out of this much, much better, as you kind of alluded to, just because of that unique time they're going to have with moms and dads at home. Yeah.
And lastly, we have a lot of educators that want to be working, that are trying their hardest. What would be something that we could or should do as parents to encourage teachers?
Well, I work with all the educators. I oversee them at our school, and I can tell you hands down, it's being very intentional and specific about something they're doing well, and let them know that. And don't sweat the small stuff. Don't be letting them know about the things that are not going well unless it really has to be fixed, because there's a lot that's not going well. But it's just that intentional, thank you for doing this and being specific about it. It's really making a difference. Having your child send a note to their teacher and saying something specific about what's making a difference.
There's a book called The Power of Small, and it talks about the lost power of a handwritten thank you note. And I can tell you, I still have a file of little notes from both parents and kids that mean the world to me today. So that would be a great thing to do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Encourage you, get connected, and Tracy is going to be able to talk to you right now about how you can get connected with our Family Partner Network.
Well, you have heard a common thread throughout the conversation, and that is get connected. And at North Coast, we have said it for years, is we're not meant to do life alone. And so we have created Family Support Ministry for that very reason and for this time. I want to share with you 3 ways that you can get connected. One is through a private Facebook page, and there you're just going to find other families who are going through the same situation and getting ideas from them and some resources. Also, we would love to connect you with a family partner. And a family partner is just somebody who wants to come alongside you, cheer you on, give you resources, pray for you, and make you know that you're not alone. And lastly, we have a website that we want to get you connected on. And that has a variety of resources that you can have there, articles. We're going to do segments with educators just to give you some nuggets on how to get through this season. And lastly, all you have to do to get connected with a family partner is fill out that form on the website, and we'll make sure and we'll get you connected with somebody who wants to walk alongside of you. Thanks for joining us, and we cannot wait to see what God does in our families.